Yeah, so I work for UK Health Security Agency for the health protection team. I joined a couple of years before the COVID pandemic. There was a lot of change in our team. So we first of all started working remotely and working in a very different way, but very quickly recruited a large number of other people onto the team. And that led to opportunities for individuals like me to go into temporary promotions to help support the line management and the structure of that team as we move through the pandemic. So I progressed quite quickly up to the point of an advanced health protection practitioner, which was my appointment about a year before I started the course. And that is one of the highest levels within our regional team as a practitioner. So I have a responsibility for the operational delivery of our service and ensuring that we have kind of a safe and effective service both in hours, and we have an out of hours team that supports us as well. I'm responsible for line managing a tree of people at a number of different levels, and I report into our senior management team of led by our deputy director, our consultants, senior practitioners like myself. So, you know, the course came at a really good time when I had spent a year quite rapidly having to learn about leadership and management at a senior level, almost on the job, without the formal training before. And very recently, in the last couple of weeks, I've now been appointed to a permanent position in the team in that role, in a job that was created because of our reorganisation, and that has created a little bit more funding for a few more posts, and I was lucky enough a couple of weeks ago to secure my position. I did, before I came into the team, I did a 4-year training course as a clinical scientist, and as part of that we had some leadership elements. So there was an NHS leadership program called, I think it's the Edward Jenner leadership program, which I did. So that was quite about 6 or 7 years ago. And then when I joined, we had an internal course which was just run over one day, called Future Engaged Deliver, which was helping to provide, you know, a little bit of upskilling in a group environment for some of the tools to help you think about leadership, but obviously just in a very short space of time. And the course that I'd done in the NHS was a self-directed online course with no kind of classroom element. Well, I think when I spoke to my boss about applying for this, he reassured me that, you know, Jo, you're doing everything right that we want you to do in your role. And this was all of last year, but there was certainly a lot of kind of self-doubt and imposter syndrome that I experienced for the first 6 months of my role. I had jumped quite high quite quickly, and you know, more senior people missed out on that opportunity who'd been in the team for a lot longer. So although we have a wonderful culture in our team, lots of kindness, it's one of the loveliest workplaces that anyone could work in, you suddenly feel the weight of responsibility on your shoulders when you haven't had that before. So coming into this, what I was really looking for was some of the tools, I think, and the theory in order to walk the walk and talk the talk. That I could see in some of my more experienced colleagues, and just be able to keep up with conversations that I was having in more senior meetings and what they were talking about with different theories and different ways of, you know, decision making and risk and management. So what I was really hoping to get out of it was just that confidence to go back into the workplace and perform, not so much to perform better, because performance wasn't an issue for me, but it was to have the confidence when I walk into a virtual room that I belong there with some of the tools that I could get from the course. It's just been almost surreal, really, how well the modules and the assignments have matched the work that I'm doing in my job. And I think what I found is that it's been the perfect level, this course, at the level I'm at. It's given me that bit of stretch to have to work a bit harder, and it's so it's not something so easy I can do in my sleep, but it isn't so challenging that I find I'm not able to keep up, and I hear other people who aren't as engaged with it, who perhaps aren't at the right level coming into it, could feel like they're just disengaged with it because it's overstretching them. So for me, it's about a good match between my skill set and what the course is offering. And one assignment in particular was around our workforce plan, and we had a really difficult situation in April when we found out that we were losing 50% of our staff much earlier towards the end of the pandemic than we were anticipating. And the assignment around doing a workforce plan tied in beautifully with that really difficult situation at work, and it gave me the tools I needed to have difficult conversations with my senior leadership team. And it was through that process in particular that I got a huge amount of respect for the work I was doing, that I was learning through the course and then bringing back into the team straight away. And that has been the platform really for me growing as a manager within the team, but then being successful at securing my position permanently. And then actually one of the things that came out of the interviews was that the two people, myself and my colleague, who have done the course or are on the course were the two appointed people, and that had the course definitely had something to do with our ability to demonstrate that strategic thinking in our answers, in our questions, and the way that we go about doing our job, I think. So I think that's probably been the biggest thing, actually, Roy, that I'll take away from this course is just how dramatic my personal life. I think it really resets the content and the conversations we had very early on, which is all about resetting yourself and looking at yourself first before you start managing others, before you start managing your workload. It's in doing a skills gap analysis. Yes, that helps you identify things at work, but it's also what grounds you, what inspires you, what do you want to achieve personally as well as professionally, and getting your head into the right space with kind of the right kind of approaches to understanding stress and dealing with work-based pressures. And I'd just come out of a really difficult time over the winter period, lots of self-doubt. I'd had an occupational health referral, and my boss and I had sort of sat down and worked out that I was regularly had 45 hours of work compressed into 37 hours, and that was a minimum before I had any additional pressures put on me each day. Plus I do out of hours working as part of my role, so a 50 to 60 hour week would quickly build up, and it was quite clear that something needed to change. So I was in a difficult place starting the course, and I recognized a lot of that kind of those conversations about stress and work, the amount of work that you're doing and managing your workload. But I think some of the books that David, who's the instructor, was referencing, I straight away went and got and was incredibly inspired by, and he gave some really good I think it was his personal touch that really spoke to me. He talked about finding your north is one example, and he talked about quite early on his aspirations to be I think it's a triathlete you've probably heard the story, and
yes, indeed.
he talked through a process of how he was going to get there. It was like this very ambitious target, but by taking really small incremental steps, how he could get there. And I just had this light bulb moment of something I really wanted to do in my personal life, which is to one day call myself a pianist. So I played the piano 20 years ago when I was younger, and I, since having my daughter, had tried to go back to playing it, but just was never really, I wanted to go from, like he was describing, 0 to a concert pianist, and I wasn't seeing all of the levels in between, the little tiny incremental steps that can get you there. And I wrote it down, and this is the kind of big life-changing moment, is I've gone from being okay to play a few things at home. I now perform regularly in public in National Trust properties as a result of that journey that I've been on. So I've kind of applied that thinking to myself first and got myself into this healthy mindset quite early on this year, with a lot of support from my family, and with talking to my boss about compressing my hours to free up a day where I can go and do something for me each week and break up my week, but also be more efficient in work, to deliver and prioritize what I needed to do that was high impact and really important, and using some of those prioritization tools that we learnt about on the course to think about, and recognize you can't do absolutely everything, and then applying that to the career goal that I've had this year of getting this permanent job, and those incremental steps I needed to achieve that. And one of the first things was clearing away all of the really low impact but apparently urgent work that I was doing all of the time, and finding better ways to delegate that work out to people was really, really valuable as well. So yeah, personally, I feel like a completely changed person having been on this course. And I think it's the main thing about that is taking the time to step away with a group of people who you don't know, who don't know you, and you feel like it's so safe to say what you're thinking. Whereas for what I've been living through the last couple of years has been in this constant feeling of being in a job interview, always having to perform, never secure because you're in a temporary promotion, and finally getting the reward because of all the hard work that I've done. But yeah, that group of people were fantastic. The cohort that I've got, you really can share lots with each other, and seeing that impact on me personally has just been amazing. So it hasn't stopped there. And I realized that I think that I'd always imagined myself as a consultant one day, and fortunately within the profession I'm in now with health protection, you can achieve a consultant level without having to go through kind of medical training. Within health protection, you can do it as a portfolio route without having to go and do a separate training course. And so that's something that I am exploring, and I've got that ambition of, but again, taking it into those incremental steps. So I've signed up and got funding for a master's in public health, first of all, which is a requirement for that. And then really it's about building up through my current work, opportunities to add to my portfolio so that I can then potentially, be eligible to apply as a consultant. So that's that. But that has been there for a while, and I now feel like I'm ready to take those steps because I've got the confidence of the work and the skills that I've been doing. And not only that, I can see myself getting there and also getting somewhere else and doing more strategic national work within the organisation as a consultant as well. So I'll probably laugh at myself in 10 years time for suggesting something like that, but that's the confidence that I feel like I have right now from I think what I would say is that I bring a lot back from the course, and therefore I get a lot of good feedback from and support from my line manager, who recognizes the value of doing the course. And I think that feeds back kind of, I can then bring stuff back hopefully to the course in those discussions of how I've applied it. So So yeah, I think if I was sorry, I'm probably preempting some of your questions, but you know, in recommending it to other people, it's about you know, you do need to look for ways to apply it to your work, and that's how it's been successful for me. Is if it was so abstract that I am having to fight to find time to do something that's so different, it doesn't necessarily work. But if you're looking for opportunities to apply it, you don't have to. I don't have to carve out my extra 20% time for this, because I can see ways in which I'm using it all the time, if that makes sense. I think that we're keen that actually everybody who's a senior manager in our team has an opportunity to do the course. And what I'm going to recommend to them is that they do need to give it that effort and that energy, and that is what I get out of it. And but what the reason I do that is because you have a really inspirational leader in David who's delivering that course. I think that's really critical to it. And what I particularly like about his style is he actually challenges you. If you say something, it isn't just I'm going to accept everything you say and oh, that's a good idea or that's a good thought. He actually then comes back to you and says, but what about this? Have you thought about that? And it actually makes you stop and think and challenge the way you think, because that's the kind of intervention we need in our team for some of the mindsets that are really kind of set in stone for some people. If they come to this course, what I want them to be challenged on their mindsets. I want that. And so I think, you know, that is what I'd want to feedback is that style works well for me. And I think it's just, I think that person doing it, delivering it, is really crucial. Yeah.